Central Minnesota Sports Hub. It's the Morning Sports Desk, presented by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and streaming on YouTube.
It is the Morning Sports Desk, powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena on a Wednesday, the 9th of April. I'm CJ Baumgartner. Corey Tackman will be joining us in a second. And right now, our guy Zeke here on the podcast once again this week. Zeke, I wish the vibes were better. I'm going to be quite honest. How you doing? You doing good? You thinking about moving your sports allegiance to somewhere else yet?
I can't. If I could, I would. I've tried. I tried really hard to be an Oregon Ducks fan, but I keep coming back to the Golden Gophers. I try finding an AFC team. I try finding a National League team.
Mizzou sports, yeah.
Mizzou, yeah. I went to Mizzou, and they're just the Gophers just further south. You know, they're not much. They're not much better.
Heartland.
Oh my goodness, no! Last night was definitely just multiple gut punches from the Pablo injury, another soft tissue injury for the Twins. Go figure, a lower body soft tissue injury, to the way the Twins lost with the error by Griffin Jacks, and then the Wolves.
Ugh. Like I talked about before last night in our group text, you know what? Twins lost, Wolves collapsed, move the Wild to Dallas again, and announce Rodgers to the Vikings, because just why not? Why not just let it all sit on one night? We're going to talk about that, all those collapses, and kind of go through a Mount Rushmore of worst Minnesota sports collapses. That's going to come up in just a second. But first, I do want to talk about the good folks at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. Remember last week, Zeke, we talked about they were doing that birthday party, ultimate party package that you could sign up for. And unfortunately, we didn't win.
Oh,
darn it.
Boo.
Would have been fun to win that one. But Dana W., the winner of that one, the recipient of the ultimate birthday party giveaway, and they are going to they're going to be enjoying a lot of stuff at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena, including those great party rooms that they have newly renovated, newly ready to roll for your birthday party. They can do multiple birthday parties at once. It is awesome. Then you go to the FunZone Arcade, you play all the games there, you get all your tickets, you win all the prizes, including those mystery jersey packs, like a couple weeks ago when we gave away that autographed Wade Boggs jersey. So cool. And you know what? On top of all of the fun you can have there, your taste buds get a lot of fun by going through the buffet at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. You can get the country's best chicken. You can get the mashed potatoes. You can get the pizza, the cheese bread, the salad bar. You can get just a whole lot of stuff. And speaking of that salad bar, Cran-tastic Salad has returned to the salad bar for a limited time. Stop in today for double points today, Wednesday, April 9th, and enjoy the Cran-tastic Salad. Doesn't that just look good, Zeke?
Well, I've been working on a sweet potato for breakfast today, so yes, it does.
It certainly sounds like it could hit the spot. Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. Go check out all the great things that they have to offer. All right, well, so now we need to talk a little bit here about the collapses. Which one do we want to go with first? Do we want to talk about the Twins, or do we want to talk about the Wolves?
Let's get the Twins out of the way, because I think we can spend a lot more time on the Wolves.
Yeah, the Twins just kind of doing what they've done. The starting pitching has been good, but not great throughout the start of the year. But when the starting pitching has been good, the offense has done almost nothing to show for it. And there's another case of it. The Twins got runners in scoring position. They waste a couple doubles from Correa. They waste a double from Ty France throughout the game. They waste almost everything in that game. They lose 2-1, and it was tied 1-1 going into the bottom of the eighth inning. Griffin Jacks on the bump gets a quick out number one, and then has a little nubber to Bobby Witt Jr., which that guy, best player in the division. I think as much as I hate to admit anything good for Kansas City, that guy streaks down the line. Griffin Jacks has to hurry the throw and throws it up the line at Kauffman Stadium, and he's able to get all the way from first to third on the throwing error, and then another grounder which the infield was playing in on, and Ty France fielded it, and with the speedy wit, there was just no way you were going to throw him out at the plate. You took the out, but you gave up the run. You lost 2-1. Pablo Lopez had a throwing error earlier in the game as well that led to a run. And the Twins lose that one, and they've lost now 2 straight in Kansas City. The offense has been non-existent. The defense has been sloppy. The error actually not on Pablo Lopez. The error was on Mickey Gasper. Just a routine ground ball, Zeke.
Gasp.
Like, why go at your side? I'm going to try my best to keep it.
It's going to be one of those days. I went for a walk last night. I went for a long walk last night.
Why field the ground ball? Why is he rolling at his side? Like, that's the look, I hate the as one little league coach to another, this major leaguer should do the whatever. So like, I'm not trying to do this, but I don't get it. Why are you going at it? There was nobody on base. Or excuse me, I can't remember the situation. Was there somebody on? Was it?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think the run, whatever, doesn't matter. The whole point is that you're trying to try and go at it to the side of a ground ball, and you end up bobbling it and then to the side, and Gasper panicked and grabbed it. And I understand Mickey Gasper is a career minor leaguer.
Mm-hmm.
The Twins had to put him there because Lee and Lewis are injured. I understand that. Still, man, you're a big leaguer.
You're making the top 26 on a big league 40-man roster. You should know how to do that.
Even if you're on the AAA roster, you should still make that.
True. Sanctioned.
Just egregious errors. And I've been doing a little bit of digging on this, Zeke, here for the Twins. Just in time, Corey, to hop on and talk a little Twins.
Oh, look at that. Look at that good-looking guy. Look at that haircut.
You want to show up great on the sports desk.
No hat today.
Can he hear us?
I hope he can. He's just ignoring us.
Hi. Now I can. Now.
You look cute today. I like your hair.
Oh, thank you very much. I had just a little powder, freshen up.
It's why you should watch the show on YouTube.
That's right.
Yeah.
I went home, by the way, because I was such a greaseball. I was like, I will never be more disrespectful than if I showed up to get a haircut. So I went home and I showered first and then went and got a haircut because it was
going to go.
I
with one of these? No.
Oh, it would have been rude.
We're talking a little Minnesota Twins here, Corey. They lose 2-1 thanks to 2 throwing errors. One by Mickey Gasper, who decided to run at a ground ball from second base just with his arm and decided not to get his whole body in front of it. Like, I don't know. Do they teach that, wherever Mickey Gasper grew up playing
basic fundamentals?
Yes, exactly. I was doing a little bit of digging on this. The Twins, and not to pick on Rocco Baldelli specifically, but this is just an era thing to talk about. Since 2019, the Minnesota Twins, if you look at the amount of throwing errors that they have as a team, actually, it actually ranks pretty well. So if you go, the least amount of errors was committed by St. Louis in that span. The Twins are 11th with 464 errors, which is, about upper third of the league. Doesn't sound that bad, right? Fielding percentage is going to look pretty good. They're still in that 11th spot as well. Let's go into a little bit more of the advanced statistics here. Outs above average factors in the amount of ground you're able to cover and just kind of your general ability to field outside of just errors versus putouts and kind of dividing it there. The Twins are 20th in baseball with a negative 37 outs above average range. The Twins in their ultimate zone rating, kind of course corrected over an 150 game stretch, are 24th in baseball with a negative 2.1 in that same stretch. Defensive runs saved, which is a stat compiled by Fielding Bible. The Twins are 16th with a negative 8. The Twins overall, if you look at the kind of runs saved metric and all that, their defenses are just sloppy. And I know it's personnel that factors into that. But for Rocco Baldelli, somebody who is a Tampa Bay Rays disciple, the Tampa Bay Rays are analytically minded and they do all that stuff, whatever. But the other thing that makes the Rays good, they're fundamentally sound. They steal bases. They play good defense. They hit, they do all of these things. And I'm sorry, boys, the Twins product, Corey's pessimistic take is showing up right. It's just such an uninspiring group of players right now. There is nothing that gets you motivated about watching Twins baseball other than a glutton for punishment.
The only thing I'll push back a little bit on is putting this on Rocco.
Yeah.
I think there's a key distinction in between in being a high school baseball coach, a coach,
right,
the baseball manager. He I know it's an oversimplification of things, but like he was handpicked by a group of leaders to execute their plan, and their plan included those players.
Personnel matters.
Yes, they practice. Yes, they do all of those sorts of things. Yes, there's things that Rocco does individually with players, but this is not they have infield coaches. They have this doesn't land on Rocco so much, in my opinion, as it does like you're picking guys who can't do it. The organization is picking players in spots. They're electing to go with Jorge Polanco. And all of a sudden, like, he can't throw.
He can't play shortstop
at all. He can't play anywhere. Okay, so I guess we'll shoehorn him into that second base spot. Royce kind of can't throw from over third base. That's just not a thing that he can do. He's a superstar when he plays. So what do they're trying to shoehorn these players in, and you have to do that, but you can't have everybody be like a Willie Castro. You know what I mean? I know Willie Castro was an all-star. You have to be able to kind of bend pieces and fit them and kind of force feed them into their spots. But I don't think this is entirely a Rocco fault. No. More of this is an organizational thing. Rocco just has to execute the plan in front of him. And in this particular instance, I don't know that he deserves all the blame.
No, certainly not. Yeah, it's just kind of a metric thing. And yeah, it's the personnel does matter. The Twins don't steal a lot of bases. It's not because I guarantee you it's not because Rocco Baldelli's like, I don't like stealing bases. Rocco Baldelli was like a top 5 draft pick and all around great athlete. That guy loves great center field play and stealing bases and all that kind of stuff. But when you're given Josh Donaldson and Nelson Cruz and
Ty France.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, why aren't we stealing more bases? Well, outside of Byron Buxton, who obviously can't play a lot of games, and Willie Castro steals a little bit, but that's not going to make up for the reason the Royals are one of the league leaders in stolen bases. Their best player, Bobby Witt Jr., steals a lot of bases. That helps out a lot. So anyway, yeah, you're right. Looking at that comeback, that's frustrating. Look at that collapse, that's frustrating. Again, they're 3-8.
You guys, speaking of stolen bases, did you guys see that Nick Gordon is a Kansas City Royal now?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Oh, I was like, I wonder how many stolen bases Nick Gordon has, and he's definitely in the Royals organization now. I'm sorry for interrupting. That's awesome. Good for him.
Yeah. No,
good for him.
Old friend Nick Gordon. Best of luck to his rap career as well. But yeah, I mean, it's just not going well for the Twins, and it's just the uninspiring part of it. It's so predictable, right? Like the comeback that they had, the collapse that they had on Sunday, completely predictable. As somebody who's at the ballpark,
I was there. I witnessed it. That was fun.
The Twins, when they got down, just in any game on Monday night, they got down. Nobody had any there's just no fighting spirit in that team. And I know it's tough in a baseball game. It's not the same as basketball or football or any hockey where it's like it's a little bit different, but it's just a lot of uninspiring baseball compounded, with the runners in scoring position not being effective, compounded with the errors. It's just a tough sell. Oh, and by the way, they're 3-8 right now. They're in the Central Division.
Are they in last place? Are they in last place?
No, the White Sox, I believe, are.
Dang right, they're not in last place yet.
But not by much. The Twins at 3-8. Their record in the American League Central is 2-3, and that includes a 3-game series with the Chicago White Sox. So sprinkled in there. They have 2 more with Kansas City, 3 with Detroit over the weekend, and then you get the surging New York Mets. So I don't know. Whatever. There's a bigger collapse that we need to talk about in this show, so I don't want to spend too much time in the Twins, but it's pretty brutal out there.
I do. I think it's important though to maybe consider that it's early. Yes. That's an important thing, but it's also sometimes I think we confuse hopeful for someone that's actually good. And it might be that our expectations were off, because it's not like, again, without spoiling some of our future conversation here, it's not like they proved they were awesome over the last, I don't know, 8 weeks of a previous season. It's not like this isn't right in line with what they have most recently showed they're capable of. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, it's exactly what they've showed. So it might just be that we're confusing being hopeful for high expectations.
Right. Which Twins, and again, we talked about this in the Twins preview show, like which Twins version were we going to buy into? The one that was on a 90-win pace up until late August, or the team that collapsed down the stretch and blew a 90-some win pace in late August to miss the playoffs? And right now, they are showing themselves to be that other team. And the stat from Aaron Gleeman on X was talking about this, and he said if you combine the Twins' record in their collapse combined with the start of this year, the only team that's worse is the Chicago White Sox, and they only have 2 fewer wins in that same stretch.
Pretty bad.
Pretty bad. That being said, they started 7-13, and they turned it around. But god dang it, do we have to do this every year where it's like, you have to expunge so much energy just to get out of the hole you dug for yourselves? And there's another team that plays basketball in the state that's in the same camp of like, do you have to do this to yourselves every single time? But
they're gonna have to play pretty well to get to 7-13.
Yeah, they are.
They're gonna have to just play 500 baseball in the next 10 games.
Is that too much to ask for?
At this rate, yes. Now they play the White Sox again this month. They play the Angels this month, although the Angels have a good start to the year. So old Washington's got them rolling.
It probably nothing. I keep trying to tell myself it doesn't mean anything. We don't have to get nervous until May. May, hopefully.
Traditionally, the Twins start off slow, then they have a really good June, July, and then
kind of August is what it is.
It is what it is. Yep. We'll be there.
It's the meme where it's like, I'll follow the Twins to hell and back, but I wish they'd stop taking me there.
Yes.
That's the meme. I'll follow this team anywhere, but I wish they'd stop going to the bad spots all the time. It could be worse. You could be the Pittsburgh Pirates, who not only defaced their Roberto Clemente sign in the outfield for an ad.
Yeah, they did.
Also, they had a part of PNC Park that had, like you could buy those legacy bricks where like you get, like my dad was a Pittsburgh Pirates fan from 1930 to when he died in 1980. And we got this brick for his memory. And the Pirates renovated part of their ballpark, ripped all of those off, and somebody found them in the dump.
Oh, no.
Nice. Those were not, I'm sure they weren't expensive either.
No,
exactly. And I'm sure the people who spent money to get those bricks as like a legacy to honor their family, I'm sure they got a refund for that.
I'm sure that's what Pittsburgh's known for.
That's what Pittsburgh is known for. That ownership. Honestly, if it weren't like, this isn't to say the Pohleds are great owners, because they are not great owners. This is to say, I guess it could be worse.
Yeah.
I guess it could always be worse. There are several owners that'll always take if the Reinsdorfs didn't exist, if whatever didn't exist, we forget about how bad Pittsburgh's ownership is. They have such a great rotation with Skeens and with some of the other guys they have. I'm forgetting their ace's name. Who was the other guy? Shoot, whatever, doesn't matter. They have a great rotation, and they have not signed a multi-year free agent contract in almost a decade. Embarrassing.
I'd like to congratulate the Los Angeles Dodgers on the future signing of Paul Skeens.
Now, there's already edits of him in a Yankees jersey. There was a graphic somebody had of all of the Pittsburgh Pirates starting pitchers that they've traded away.
Tampa Bay did that
because they've all traded them to Tampa Bay.
If anyone shouldn't be talking about big names they've traded away in the rotation, Tampa Bay should not be
the
ones to taunt Pittsburgh about that.
But yeah, I remember the Pirates went all in on the trade for Chris Archer, and they traded Austin Meadows and like Shane Baz, and I think the starting pitcher Tyler Glasnow, I think, was in that deal. Good job, Pittsburgh.
Who's
with the Dodgers.
Dodgers. Yeah.
With the Dodgers.
Yep.
They also had speaking of, Blake Snell, who's now with the Dodgers, so that's also good as well. All right. this topic's getting depressing. Let's talk about another topic that'll surely get our spirits up. The Minnesota Timberwolves are back to sucking because they decided that in a 5-game win streak, they actually played they played an okay first half. They played a great third quarter. And I was like, oh, good. We can kind of I didn't even really watch most of the fourth quarter. I just kind of coasted for a little bit. I was like, I'm putting the kid to bed. I'm watching a little bit of the Twins because that's close late. I expect the Wolves to run away with this one until they got outscored in the fourth quarter, like 40 to 13.
33-3.
A 33-3
run. Yeah.
And just looking lifeless. And the amount of passes, I know, Corey, you weren't able to watch the game, but let me describe it to you in this way possible. You ever watch a high school basketball game and a team sets up a zone defense and you can tell it's like a November game, like an early December game, and the other team hasn't quite had enough time to practice how they're going to handle the zone defense. And so the other team just throws it into the arms of a defender every single time in the elbow. That's that game in high school. Imagine that happening in a professional NBA game. That's what it was in the fourth quarter last night.
Yeah, listening to Ant's post-game press conference, he said we were just they changed to a zone defense and they had no answer for it at all, and it was frustrating because even Mike Conley's throwing the ball into the arms of Gary Trent Jr. and these guys. And as soon as
by Milwaukee, they're a good team, but
they are, yeah. As soon as that scuffle happened with Naz Reid, and I forget, it wasn't Gary Trent Jr. It was somebody else. It was number 3. As soon as it happened, I was like, Milwaukee's going to freaking win this game because they have all the momentum now.
Once Rudy started throwing hands, you knew like they lost it.
Yep. And after that, back-to-back steals, back-to-back dunks, and Milwaukee took the lead. And you're like, this is awful. And Ant said we had no answer for it. And you should have an answer for it. If they're able to change their defense mid-game, why can't you change the way you're doing things offensively at the end of the game?
It's a zone. It's not like it's anything they've never seen.
Exactly.
Before.
It wasn't their defense wasn't working. They made that change, and then 3 points the rest of the game.
Embarrassing.
And you fall from potentially 4th in the West down to 8th. If you can hang on, you're 4th today, and now you're 8th.
Yep. You could have been hosting a playoff series.
Yes.
Now it's still possible, although it's much harder. They play Memphis tomorrow.
Yep.
They play Brooklyn again, and then they play Utah to end the season. Now, I think this season, that game is just a big encapsulation of the season, which is a talented group of players who play extremely well most of the time, and then all of a sudden bottom out and implode and just ruin any of the good, like any goodwill, any good success they built, they crumble it all over themselves. And
yeah, like when they helped the Washington Wizards snap like a 16-game losing streak earlier this season.
Currency to watch that game in person, Z.
That's right, you were there. I forgot that. There was that one. There was the Obi Toppin game. You take those 2 games and flip them, and the Wolves are the 3 seed or something ridiculous like that.
You take away the Utah game where Ant got suspended because he decided to throw the ball 4 rows up at the crypto.com.
That's right.
Like, good job, guys. Good job.
Did you guys see John Morant chuck a grenade into the crowd last night?
That guy is daring the league to suspend him. It's hilarious.
It's a 3, pulls the pin, throws an imaginary grenade in the crowd. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, so it's all not great. Corey, you've kind of been silent. What are your thoughts here?
Well, John Morant's an idiot. That's my first. They find him over guns, so he's like, "Fine, I'll go to a different weapon." He's moving on to bazookas. Rumor has it next.
Yeah, my kid saw it. Now he wants to buy a grenade. He's just an awful.
He is just, and I mean this disrespectfully. He's so dumb. All right, now that we got that out of the way.
He's going to put up 60 against the Wolves tomorrow since he said that.
You know what? Screw him. That's what I'm saying. I'm going to elect to take a 30,000-foot view of yesterday's game. Sure. Just for the sake of, because this also exists. So the disclaimer here is I am eliminating the part where they were up by 24 points with under 10 to play. Mm-hmm. Eliminating the part where it was like a 32-3 run or whatever you said it was, and was it an actual total and complete failure and mess up. Like they should have just won that game, and it's fine. my 30,000 foot perspective on this is just yesterday, the three of us were on this very program, the Morning Sports Desk, powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena, available also on YouTube and wherever it is you get your podcasts, saying if there's one game that this team will lose and it's okay that they do lose, it's Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Memphis is not that good. Brooklyn is not that good. Utah is not that good.
Worst team in the league.
These are what I mean. Brooklyn's not a Western Conference, but like that, it's probably, you're right. They're an 8 seed now. And if they won, they would have been a 3 seed. Do you want to know what happens if they beat Memphis whenever they play Memphis?
Right. It's going to flip.
They're going to be the 3 seed again. So it's probably, as embarrassing as that was, it's not like they haven't had 76 games of showing us who they were. Like this,
right?
It's a totally unshocking loss.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably going to be okay. They're probably going to be the 4 seed because they were mathematically going to be the 4 seed.
Yeah.
That's probably what they're going to be, and it's probably going to be fine.
There was a post-game quote from Dante DiVincenzo, and he was talking about, he's like, I understand the loss is the way it was, but like, you know, we had a bad 10-minute stretch. Like, that's true. He's like, but we're the same team that got up 20. We're the same. Like, we came in winning 5 games in a row. We came in like that. All is true. Now, don't look at some of the scores of those 5 because they were eking out wins over a G League Sixers team, but they still were wins and they still were finding ways to win and they were doing whatever. And that is true. And it just the mental battle of losing that game and feeling like there's no fight. There is a lot of people are pointing this loss on Chris Finch. And like we've talked about with Rocco Baldelli, it's really easy to look at the guy who's in charge and be like, why couldn't that guy do something? Everybody's like, why didn't Chris Finch call a timeout during this run? It was a 34-3 run. He called timeouts.
Twice, at least.
Right. Well, why wasn't he doing anything? It's a zone defense, my guy. They should know how to stop a zone defense. Like, these are grown men who've played basketball their entire lives. Like, I get it. You can't blame. It's easier to just blame one guy than it is to blame the whole team. And not to say Chris Finch is without fault, because that's a total system failure. Like, whatever. I never understand. And this is less than 24 hours after the Nuggets, who won the championship 2 years ago, fired the winningest coach in franchise history who had been there a decade, and they showed patience with him, and it paid off.
Hate to see it.
You also hate to see the Grizzlies fire their coach in the last month. You hate to see that too. And then the same fan base turns around and is like, we should also fire our head coach, or we should also put Chris Finch because he doesn't play Rob Dillingham enough. Like, yeah. I never.
Milwaukee did the same thing. Budenholzer got fired like 2 years after Milwaukee won. Frank Vogel
within like 3 months.
Yeah. I don't get
it. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense in any of this. I know we talked about this last night, and Corey, you had a good point about all this. What do you not to say that Finch is without blame, but where do you hold him accountable in this?
I think sometimes we forget, much like I said with Rocco, where there's a difference between being a high school basketball coach or high school baseball coach and a professional manager. Right. There's a difference between being a high school basketball coach and a professional basketball head coach. There's just a difference. And that being is you are not the authority. You are a coworker. It's much more akin to like in a school, a principal and the teachers. Now, does the principal kind of set the tone and dictate direction of how, of the path of that's yes, of course, but this is a working relationship. These are full grown adults. And like you said, it's not like timeouts weren't called. It's not like they don't have plans against zones. It's not like they didn't have a game. It's not like sometimes when the product on the court is not doing what it's supposed to be doing, the head coach can do a couple things. He can freak out and throw chairs and pull whatever Bobby Knight move he wants to pull.
Get ejected like Rocco did the other night.
Or you can sit back and say, this is what you guys want to do.
Okay.
All right. If you want to do it your way, you can figure it out your way. I've called timeouts. We've tried to stop this momentum. I've tried to correct the procedure here. If this is what you want to do, then this is what you get to do. And then the lesson there after the game is, I'm trying to tell you what to do, and you're not doing what I want you to do. And do you see what happens? 32-3 run to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to stick to what we do? Now, I'm obviously not in the huddle. I'm not in a locker room. I don't know. Maybe this is entirely his fault, and he's just wasting space. But maybe, just maybe, he's rubbing their nose in a little bit. This is what you want to do. You get to live in your own filth then. What do you think about that? Oh, I'm catching you smoking cigarettes. I'm going to make you smoke the rest of the pack of cigarettes. Mm-hmm. That was the basketball equation of that potentially last night.
Right. I get it. Finch's whatever. Like, the same thing with Rocco. Like, I don't have big adoration for them, but also, like, they're fine. Like, I don't have issues of, like, what is this team doing with this person at the helm? Chris Finch is the winningest head coach in Wolves history.
There's not a single person. We are caught up in the weeds in our coaches as fans. That's how it works. That's a part of being a fandom. There's not a single person in the country who thinks Chris Finch is a bad coach. The only people that do are Timberwolves fans, because we're caught in the weeds.
Look at the Vikings towards the end of last season. Everybody's like, should Kevin O'Connell be calling plays? Like, he doesn't run enough. Like, what's he doing in these short yardage situations? He's taking too many deep shots. What's he doing? Should Kevin O'Connell be calling plays? And like a half of the league at the end of last season was like, should we trade for Kevin O'Connell? Like, guys, like,
coach of the year. He won the coach of the year.
Let's see the forest through the trees here a little bit, please, with these coaches.
Right.
And I include Rocco in that, by the way.
Yeah. How about John Hines? How about the Wild? Are they they're getting Kaprizov back?
We haven't mentioned John Hines yet.
Is he pulling the goalie in overtime yet?
They're still in the playoffs. I don't think we're to that point yet.
He's not desperate enough yet to do that.
Not yet.
Okay. All right. Let's end the show here talking a little bit about the epic collapses in Minnesota sports. Okay. So as we've learned, there's an affinity in this, and every pro team has this, by the way. Before we get to start, I just want to say I'm not a woe is me Minnesota sports fan, and I don't think either of you two guys are either. We're like, we just revel in, like, oh, Minnesota sports, you broke my heart again. What do
we are? It's our entire personality.
You're a fan of a professional sports team. Your team only gets to the mountaintop maybe once in your lifetime at best. Like, the pain is part of it. You're along for the ride in general. The end is almost always going to suck. So you have to enjoy, like, you got to deal with it, whatever. Okay. Let's take a look now at the top 4 Minnesota sports collapses in a Mount Rushmore. We'll go around the table here. You could pick from your lifetime. You could just pick in general. You could pick whatever. We'll slowly kind of aggregate one together as the complete MSD version. But going around, I'm going to put, in no particular order, here's the number one thing that I wrote down, just top of mind. The 2016 Minnesota Vikings. That was a team that started 5-0. They had Adam Thielen, they had Stephon Diggs, they had a top defense. I think that all made our lists. I can't remember. I know, Zeke, you had a few there as well. Yep. That team was 5-0, and they beat Aaron Rodgers. They beat the defending MVP in Cam Newton. They ran up and down the Houston Texans, a team everybody loved. They opened US Bank Stadium. Sam Bradford came in on a whim and was running the offense. And there are a lot of people that are like, man, could this guy be the quarterback of the future for the Vikings? Like, look at how things are going. And then obviously over the course of the year, everything blew up and the season ended with a guy hanging from one of the trusses at US Bank Stadium. So I think that's pretty easy. 2016 Vikings. Should that get a spot?
Yeah, I think so. Unless this needs to be like a specific game, but no, I don't think you can go wide left and have it not count.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, man, that's
yeah, no, I think that I have no issue with that one.
All right.
Nope. Nor do I.
Okay. So you guys all had that one on your list? Or
I had 2017 Vikings. Was that the Philadelphia Eagles year?
Yes.
The next year were the Minneapolis Miracle, Super Bowl at home, all the momentum, Case Keenum, and then
go right down the field and score in the first drive, and you're like,
up 7-0, and then go Birds.
I specifically remember seeing a tweet that said Keenum to Rudolph 7-0. This is too easy. And then it went, and then they dropped 38 unanswered.
38-7.
Jesus Christ himself intervened, and Philadelphia had 1,100 yards of offense in 2 games.
Sure did. Nick Foles, baby.
Insane.
We'll always have the graphic of Case Keenum, Nick Foles, Blake Bortles, and Tom Brady looking.
Yeah, we will.
Big stadium.
Pops up every January. That'll pop up for the rest of our lives.
So the first one I put on my list, again, I didn't pick an individual game. I went with kind of a season long.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the biggest like season long disappointment collapse is the 98 Vikings. They were projected to be pretty good. And then Randy Moss was immediately amazing. And everyone was like, this is going to be a problem. And then they were the best team in the league by far. They were so good, as a matter of fact, that when they lost, Denver almost lost the AFC Championship game because they knew they were going to win the Super Bowl, and they let off the gas in the AFC Champion. Like, it ended up just being kind of dicey. I think the 98 Vikings are the best football team in my life that Minnesota has produced. With the 2019 Viking, or what, the Brett Favre Vikings, whatever year that was.
Yeah,
9, sorry. The 2009 being right there. But that Vikings team, I mean, I grew up in South Central Minnesota, and that was like the year after Welcome to Miami was a hit song by Will Smith, and KDWB was singing, let's go to Miami that's where the Super Bowl was going to be.
Miami.
It was, and everyone on the planet knew the Vikings were winning the Super Bowl that year, period. There was no doubt in my mind that they were winning the Super Bowl, and that wasn't just the homer in me. Everything you read, everything you watched, everything you saw was like, the Vikings are winning the Super Bowl. So that was the year, like a year-long culmination of, I've never been kicked in the sports balls so hard in my entire life.
Agreed.
Adding to my list on number 2 was last night's Wolves. I think that just has to go down there, just for the way everything crumbled and how lifeless they looked. It's just got to go down there. Somebody's got to be a prisoner of the moment, and it might as well be me. It's on the list.
I
don't entirely agree, but at least as far as a single game goes, it is tough to beat.
Yeah, that's a bad one. I'm gonna speaking of single games, I'm gonna throw the 2003 Gopher football team on here.
Answer.
2003, the Gophers were 6-0. They're at home at the Metrodome against Michigan, a team they haven't beaten in forever, with like a 3 or 4 score lead, and they choke that game away and they lose to Michigan. Was the final score 38-35? I mean, they were ranked. It was Rose Bowl on the horizon. Let's go. Lost to Michigan, lost to Michigan State the next week, 44-38, and then got blown out by Iowa, second to the last game of the year, 40-22. That was such a good team. That was such a fun team to watch. You had 3 NFL running backs on that team. You beat Oregon in the Sun Bowl on Christmas Eve or on New Year's Eve. Congrats. But losing that 4-score lead at home to Michigan kind of ruined a lot of good things that could have potentially happened for the 03 Gophers and Glenn Mason.
Well, in that era of Gophers in general, right? You're talking about the same Gophers who had a snap go over the head of the punter and losing to Wisconsin. If you win that game, you're talking about a rose. Like that Gopher team had more. That Gopher era had more Rose Bowl scares. It was, if they can just beat this team, they're going to the Rose Bowl, and they should beat this team. They did it. They lost to Wisconsin, but yeah, those are my favorite Gopher teams. Asad Abdul Khalik.
That was a senior year. Yep.
Lawrence Maroney,
was
Mary
there.
Cooper, Thomas
Barber was there. Yeah.
Field. I mean, those were unbelievable Gopher team. Every single offensive lineman, I mean, like every center for those Gophers was a pro, a decade-long pro. They would just run through them. Mark Setterstrom, remember him?
Yeah, that was his sophomore year. Esslinger was on this team. Ben Utek was on this team.
Yep, they were awesome, man.
Matt Spaeth was on this team. Ugh.
St. Michael Albertville's Matt Spaeth. Yeah, no, I would like just that era of Gophers in general. You could kind of
lump them all together.
2000s Gophers blew a lot of chances. That's why Glenn Wilson got fired.
That's true. Yep.
All right. What's so I think everybody's gotten their 2 so far yet. Everybody's gotten their first 2 off the list, right?
Can I throw just a small recency bias? I thought the 2024 Twins was a pretty money collapse.
Darn it, you took my 3rd one.
So I'll take that as my 2nd, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, the 2024 Minnesota Twins, they were on, if you look at FanGraphs projections on that August 18th, they got a win on a Saturday against the Texas Rangers. And then going into that Sunday morning, they were going for a 4-game sweep in Texas on the defending World Series champions. And not only were they like a 95% chance to make the playoffs, not only were they projected to win like 95 games, the Guardians, who had been in control of the division all year, the percentage, like the Twins were the favorites, according to FanGraphs, to overtake them and win the division. And then just lifeless, like just a complete collapse where you could see it coming in real time. Worse than 2022, because all throughout 2022, you were like, the division's not great, but they should be able to squeak it through. Like, we'll see. And then they ended up choking it at the end. But this was a like legit, this team's going to win like 94 games. Okay, cool. Like they'll win the division. They'll go right into the playoffs. They had a chance at getting like the 2 seed, which meant you would have gotten past the wild card series and right into the ALDS. And they blew it. Injuries, of course, happened when you were to Joe Ryan and to a couple other members, to Paddock and a couple other members of the Twins starting staff. Buxton missed a lot of time. Carlos Correa was an all-star in the first half, was on pace for one of his best seasons ever, and then had plantar fasciitis pop up in the opposite ankle from the year before and missed all but the last 2 weeks of the season. And by the time that they got all those guys back, even though they played well, it was too little too late. Royce Lewis had like a good start to the year, but then in the middle, as soon as he said, I don't do that slump thing, immediately did that slump thing for 3 months. Yep. So like, it was just anything that could go wrong would have gone wrong for the Twins. And then of course, all the off the field stuff with the TV deal and the fan morale and cutting payroll, like just an epic collapse for that Twins team.
I think, I think it's kind of a rare opinion, and a lot of people like to talk about the Twins playoff record, and I generally believe that, like, statistically, the correct team won those playoff matches just about every single time. Like the Twins made all those playoffs. Like, so there is, with the exception of, was that the year they lost to Oakland?
Yep.
So that's the one exception here where I was like, they were the better team. They should have won. They probably blew that one. But like losing to the Astros, losing to the Yankees, all those
09 Yankees should not be seen as like a slight.
Good. That's not. Yeah, I understand that we're hoping on a hope that they could just get lucky. But generally speaking, I don't consider those playoff losses collapses, even if the other team was the wild card team, because it was like the Yankees had 7 more wins or whatever that season. Anyway, what they did in 2024 was catastrophic. It broke my heart.
Yeah. Oh man, dang it. Zeke, I know you got to get out of here pretty quick. We don't want to hold you too much longer. Mention your stuff and you can get out of here.
Yeah, I got 2 more. I'm going to add the 1975 Vikings on this list. That was the Drew Pearson push-off season. I mean, of all the great Minnesota Vikings teams of the late 60s and all through the 70s, 75 was the year that they put everything together to win the Super Bowl. And it was the controversial push-off, Drew Pearson, Hail Mary, Cowboys that ended it. I mean, that was that was the best team the Vikings had in the 70s was 75. They got to put them up there because that was, I mean, before, if 98 didn't happen, 1975 would be the best Vikings team ever.
Right.
Hands down. The last one I got is a hockey one. We're going to go all the way back to 1991 for a losing team in the regular season that kind of found its way into the Stanley Cup Finals. The Minnesota North Stars finished the season sub 500. Let me see if I can find their exact record here. They're like 27 and 39 or something ridiculous like that. 27, 39 and 14. 8 and 24 on the road. The number 7 seed in the playoffs. And then they got really, really hot. They beat Chicago, upset Chicago, the 2 seed. Then they upset St. Louis, and then they knocked out Edmonton in the Campbell Conference Finals 4-1. Wayne Gretzky was gone at that point, but still, Grant Fuhr, Mark Messier were still there. And the North Stars find themselves in the Stanley Cup Final against Pittsburgh. They're up 2-1. And they lose in 6 games, including game 6, the most lopsided clinching game in hockey history. Pittsburgh beat the North Stars 8-0 in game 6.
It's definitive.
They were the best team in hockey for like 3 weeks, and then couldn't win those last 2 games
back to being who we thought they were
to close things out. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's a quote somewhere. Because Pittsburgh has had an awful history. They weren't the Pittsburgh Penguins of today. The North Stars, there was a quote in the Star Tribune that said something along the lines of the North Stars and Penguins both have very storied histories that both fan bases are trying very hard to forget. And then they found themselves in the finals, and Mario Lemieux happened, and well, we know how that went. And
yeah, he ended up good.
He ended up pretty good, and now Minnesota hasn't been to a Stanley Cup since.
Well, no, the Stars got going though. I think they ended up making a cup at the end of the decade. They
won one. Yeah, they won. Yeah, 96. They won a cup.
Yeah, the franchise did. Yeah,
mm-hmm. Neil Broughton got his ring with.
Yeah. Say it with me, everyone. Norm Green still sucks.
He still sucks.
If I could piggyback onto that, just a quick moment. My final thing I had on my list was any Wild season where they blew it in a single month after the new year.
So all of them.
Hey, the Wild, holy buckets, look at them go. January, turds.
Yeah.
Oh, made it through January this year. February, turds.
I have, by the way, to piggyback on the Wild, I have the 2016-17 Wild team. Through most of the regular season, they were excellent. They were so good. Parisi and Suter were playing up to potential. That was the first year of that was after they fired Yo, and then they brought in Boudreau, and he like instantly was like everything was clicking. It was good. Boudreau was the lovable loser, but he got this team ready to roll. This was going to be the team. All those Washington seasons were going to be for naught. He finally had a winner. And then over the last month of the season, you were like, something's looking a little off. Do we maybe want to? They had a chance to be one of the top overall seeds in the West. They blew it. They got a first-round series with St. Louis. And see, who's the coach of St. Louis in that playoff series?
Mario Lemieux.
If memory serves, it was the guy they'd fired like 10 months prior in Mike Yeo.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. So, hey, his name aptly fit. He had the Wild going up and down like a yo-yo. So, it was pretty fitting. So, yeah, the 2016-17 Wild do make my cut. And those are my 4. I do have a couple honorable mentions. One is a single game. Twins versus A's, June 2009. Twins were up 10-0 in the early innings and proceeded to lose that game 11-10. And it was controversial because in the 9th inning, Michael Kadire slid at home and was ruled out, even though, in fact, he was safe. But that was before MLB decided to put in replay. And so the call on the field stood. Kadire was actually safe at the plate. And that ended up backfiring. So Twins versus A's in June of 2009. Do you remember that one, Zeke?
Which one? Sorry.
Twins versus A's 2009. In
2009.
June. They had that 10-0 lead.
I don't know if I remember that one.
No, that was one to forget.
Yeah. When I think Twins A's disappointment, I think that 2006 ALDS where the Twins had the MVP, the Cy Young, couple Gold Glove winners.
Yeah.
Liriano got hurt, and then Mark Kotze hit the inside the park home run when Toriano dove for it, and that one should be honorable mention too. The 06 Twins. They were so good second half of the season, came back, stole the division from Detroit, and
Detroit still ended up making the World Series, which is dumb.
Sure did.
But they lost
they
to
didn't win it. They didn't win it though. They didn't win it. They didn't win it.
Cardinals team. Good job. My last honorable mention was the 2010-11 Minnesota Golden Gopher men's basketball team. That was the team coming off of a back-to-back NCAA tournament bids, and Al Nolan was still leading that team, and they had wins in the early season, I believe, over ranked West Virginia. They had another really good ranked victory. I can't remember who it was in that early season, but they were a team that was ranked in the early part of the year, and they had some injuries, and they fell apart, and they didn't even make the NIT. They just completely collapsed, and then kind of Tubby's time in Minnesota started to really get hot after that. But that was a team I was really invested in. I thought they were going to put it all together. Ralph Sampson was still on that team. The third was still on that team. Al Nolan was there. I believe Blake Hoffarber was still there. Like, they still had some really good players, and they just completely collapsed in that second part. Once they got to conference play, it was all over.
Yeah, Blake Hoffarber, Trevor Mbakwe, Rodney Williams, Colton Iverson. Oh. Al Nolan.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
It was not good. Trying to find their season. They got wins. They got wins over North Carolina, number 8 North Carolina, and West Virginia to start their seasons. And it was like, okay, here we go. And then they proceeded down the stretch to lose their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But then they also lost their last 10 out of 11 in that season.
But hey, who's the one team they beat in there?
Who's the one team they beat? Well, that would have to be that'd be Iowa.
Sure did.
And
And lost to the rest of the Big Ten.
And then they lost to the rest of the Big Ten. Hey, did they beat Wisconsin that year? Also, no.
No, they did not.
Did they beat Michigan State? No. In fact, they lost to them twice.
Yep. In a first round exit to Northwestern in the Big Ten tournament. Are you kidding me?
It was an 8-9 seed. The Gophers were ranked as high as 14th that year.
Missed the tournament altogether. They were ranked.
The last ranking they had, they were 18th in the country on February 6th, and they missed any tournament. They didn't even make the NIT. Great job, guys.
Good for them.
Great job, everyone. So, all right. Any other honorable mentions before we get out of here?
No, for the love of God, can I just go home and cry now?
I'm gonna go for another long walk. Thanks, guys, for this.
Yeah, this was fun. I'm glad we pulled you out of meetings so you could do this.
What a terrible idea this was.
It's all right. The good news is they'll give us plenty of new ones.
There's always next year. Starts very soon for Minnesota sports.
Minnesota Twins. It's starting pretty quickly. All right, guys. Thanks for that. We'll maybe tomorrow we got high school sports on the air tomorrow. We can at least talk about that.
There you go.
There we go. It's gonna be 60 degrees today. Thank goodness. So all right, guys. See you.
Powered by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Follow the Morning Sports Desk on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And watch every show on YouTube.